Can I help you with that?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand, in honor of one child's wish, to fuel the fire that will grant many more. Join the kingdom.
Welcome to Out of the Fog. I'm Melissa Royle Critch, hosting from home. Tonight we have a very special episode of Out of the Fog featuring Alan Doyle and Margaret Eaton. Of course, you know Alan Doyle as a singer, songwriter, author, actor, many things, but throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, he has been hosting wildly popular Facebook Live events from his own home. And these have, of course, been attracting thousands and thousands of viewers, but it's also been raising an incredible amount of money for Dollar a Day. And of course, Dollar a Day is the organization Alan himself co-founded in order to raise awareness and funds for mental health initiatives. So Alan's going to be joined tonight by Margaret Eaton. She's the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association. And she's here to chat with us about how the upcoming week is Mental Health Awareness Week and some of the issues around mental health and wellness during the pandemic. And of course, the two of them are going to be chatting with us as well about the virtual kitchen party coming up on May 20th on Alan's Facebook, and how much fun that's going to be and how much good it's going to do. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Alan and Margaret.
This is Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Melissa Royle Critch, host of Wednesday nights on Out of the Fog on Rogers TV. Every week we chat with political, business, and community leaders about things going on right here in our city. So tune in at 7:30 or again at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays on Out of the Fog.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome to Out of the Fog. We are here with singer, songwriter, and certainly philanthropist Alan Doyle and Margaret Eaton, the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association. Welcome to the show, Margaret and Alan.
Thanks for having us on. Thanks so much.
And Alan, you've certainly been kind enough to be on our show before, and we've talked about $1 a day, but we'll come into the COVID-19 specific events in a minute. But just for anyone who's not yet aware of $1 a day, what was the genesis of that organization? What's the goal?
Oh, thanks so much for letting me talk about it again. It all just started very simply here in St. John's. I used to walk up and down Water Street between my house and the Great Big Sea studio, and I used to give a guy $1 every day on the street, and I chatted to him about his mental health and addictions issues. And as bands used to do, we went down the road when we had the record done, and I wondered how I could give that guy $1 a day without actually being there to give it to him. And so I started saving $1 a day, and at the end of the year, I gave like $1 a day to one of the homeless shelters here in St. John's, and I did that every year for a few years. And I told my friends Brendan and Andrew about it. And they said, well, we should do that nationally. We should create an engine where people can easily $1 a day, and we'll just take it and distribute it to mental health and addictions programs and facilities across the country. So we started that a couple of years ago, and we'd given away over $1 million or so over a couple of years. And then we started doing these supper time sing-alongs for a couple of, Kids Help Phone at first, and then a COVID-19 fund that we started, and then some stuff for Unison Fund, and then next week we're going to do something for Margaret's organization, and we're up around $500,000 raised just from singing a few supper time songs for mental health and addictions facilities and programs across the country. So it's been quite fun, and I'm grateful to Margaret and those guys for doing all the hard work, and we just got to try to support them.
That's incredible. And Margaret, I understand this week is Mental Health Awareness Week. So what does that, I guess, that week mean for your organization? And how'd you get involved with $1 a Day?
Well, thanks so much, Melissa, and thank you, Alan. We're so appreciative of your support. So Mental Health Week is a week to celebrate mental health and to bring more awareness to mental health challenges and encourage people to address their mental health issues, especially right now. With the pandemic, we know that more and more people are feeling socially isolated, and that creates anxiety and stress. So this week, our theme is really about making social connection. So we know it's really common in society to ask each other, how are you? And we just say back, well, I'm fine. But we may not really be fine right now. In fact, a lot of us are suffering. So rather than just kind of going through the motions, what we suggest right now is that we have real conversations, that we make a real connection with each other by being vulnerable and saying how you're feeling, and then encouraging the other person to say how they're feeling. And we believe that social connection will help with our resiliency and our ability to get through this pandemic. Excuse me. So we got involved with $1 a Day, I think it was last year, through our Headstrong program. So we have a program that helps develop champions amongst high school students. And so $1 a Day is one of our funders for that program, which is a national program. There are events and activities for mental health champions in schools, because we know kids in particular are feeling greater anxiety. Those anxiety levels are increasing over the last 10 years. And so Headstrong really seeks to address that. And we thank Alan Doyle and $1 a Day for their support.
One of my favorite days on the road, sorry, Melissa, one of my favorite days, one of the things we've been trying to do is go visit every one of the causes that we support, and spend a day. And I spent a great day in Alberta with the Headstrong gang. I must say, I really enjoyed their approach and their whole notion of how inclusive their program is for kids. And really, Melissa, it's their cause really, in a nutshell, is they encourage mentorship from people around the same age groups, and so kids in school can go talk to somebody in school, and they have these seminars, and it's just a wonderful program. Just another one of the things myself and Margaret were chatting about before we came on the air here, about how when I started this whole thing, I assumed that the people I would be really going to bat for are the people who need these services, But the more I visit, Headstrong or Thrive here in St. John's, or the Harbour Light in Vancouver or whatever, the more I want to help the people who are actually providing these services, because they're the real heroes. They're the ones that are doing the hardest frontline mental health and addictions work, and they're doing it either for very little, or in many cases for no money at all. Like, they're volunteering their time to do the most difficult and the most personal work. And I figure the least, every time I've gone there, I've walked away going, man, the least we can do is give them $1. Like, they're doing, you see what they're doing over there at Thrive, for example, night and day. The least we can do is round up 4 quarters and give it to them today. So it's been really and I don't use the word lightly, but it's been quite inspirational, I must say.
And I love that you're talking about kind of the positive side of talking about these issues. And Margaret, you mentioned as well, celebrating mental health awareness, because we often kind of dance around some of these topics that still have some stigma around them, and think of them in a negative way. So I love that you're, celebrating all of the efforts that our frontline workers and organizations like yourself are doing, to help people with mental health issues. And so that's what I think is so interesting and so fun about the virtual kitchen party idea that you've come up with. So what's the, what's on deck for that? What's the plan, and where can people watch it?
Oh, for me, the next one that we're talking about here today is the May 20th, my birthday, my 27th birthday. Or sorry,
again.
My
You're
birthday is coming
again.
up. That's right. I'm having it for the 30th time or something. Supper time, like 5:00 Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
My Facebook Live. Go find me on Facebook, and I'll be here in the studio singing a few songs. I'll ask some friends to contribute along the way. And the whole idea is we're doing a few special things for that one because it's the $1 a day birthday celebration. We're supporting Canadian Mental Health Association initiatives in particular. But then we're doing a drive to start to get more full-time $1 a dayers as well, and we'll have a couple of special prizes if you jump aboard and agree to give $1 a day for the year. And it's all really just, I mean, a few songs and some good times for great causes, really.
And Margaret, what does it mean to have, I mean, such a champion like Alan Doyle in your corner on a weekend for a cause so important as this?
It's so important to have leaders and champions who are trusted. And I think it also really breaks down stigma because so many people haven't supported mental health for years because it has been kind of behind a closet. We really need those champions like Alan who kind of normalize it, and they celebrate it as well. You know that this is important and that it can't be treated differently from physical health. We should be just treating mental health in the same way that we treat physical health. And so it's just absolutely wonderful to have champions like Ellen who are willing to speak out about it and who share their compassion for others. So thank you, Ellen.
Jeez. Really?
Yeah,
You know,
it's really important.
I just honestly feel like it's the least we can do when you go visit these frontline, programs and facilities. It literally just, you walk away going like, well, I have to do more because they're doing the hard stuff. The least we can do is, encourage people to give $1 a day, or, I think, one of the things I'm proud of, in Canada, I mean, in particular in Newfoundland, Labrador, of course, is that I think the music community and the arts community steps up so quickly at times. I mean, my joke in Newfoundland has been forever that if a house catches on fire, they call the band before they call the fire department, and it's like, and I would love to know the amount of money that, even if you just take the musicians, I would love to know the amount of money that on average that the Newfoundland Labrador music community raises for charity in a calendar year. It would be absolutely staggering. And, and so, and I think, we do it because we want to, and we do it because we can. And I think we do it because, again, like certainly over the last couple of years, I've been more encouraged to do it and more inclined to do it just because I've seen people do superhero stuff for practically nothing that I'm inspired and motivated to help them do what they're doing as much as I can.
Excellent. I mean, it's so great hearing about this initiative and what the plan is for Mental Health Awareness Week. So we're going to take a quick break, if it's okay with you guys, and then we'll be right back. We'll talk about mental health in the time of COVID-19 and also a little bit more about what Alan's been up to. We'll be right back in just a minute.
All right, girls.
Mom, you said it's played again.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
Welcome back to Out of the Fog. We are here with Alan Doyle and Margaret Eaton. Margaret, of course, is CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association. Everyone's saying we're living in unprecedented times and it's strange times, and it affects everybody in different ways. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about, what are some, mental health issues that are especially, arising or prevalent given the pandemic and also kind of the lockdown and the financial issues that people are facing?
Yeah, well, we know that 50% of Canadians report worsening mental health during this crisis. And, there are a few people that we're particularly worried about, older adults who are living on their own, and also feel some fear about catching COVID-19. They're struggling right now. They're experiencing that social isolation, especially if they don't have access to technology that would help bridge that. We're worried about frontline workers right now, the people that are under all that pressure to actually care for people who are ill and may not have the protective equipment that they need to keep themselves well. And if you have an existing mental health problem or an addiction, this can actually exacerbate that condition, especially if you don't have access to the groups that you might normally be attending to help support you during that time. And we're also worried about children and youth that are living in difficult homes where there may be violence. And so it was a very good thing that the government recently increased some funding to shelters. And people should know that shelters are still open and they're still an option for you if you need to get out. And there's always the Kids Help Phone as well, which Alan also supports for those people who are feeling a little bit trapped right now or struggling.
And Alan, of course, we talked about how much money you have raised, and I'm sure you're still going to raise for mental health initiatives through $1 a Day, initiatives like Kids Help Phone and others. And certainly that's kind of, probably, as those of us watching, that's the best thing we can do, is if we can donate to organizations like yours to do that. But I also, and not to trivialize mental health issues, but I think that there must be some big benefit of being able to feel like a community and watch something that makes you happy and feel a part of something. And, Alan, I'm wondering, what kind of, perception have you gotten for your events? You're so used to performing in front of a crowd and feeling that energy and seeing it so right weird. In the moment of how happy you're making everybody and how much joy you bring. So what's it like, cheering people up from afar right now?
Yeah, you rush after doing it for an hour and check the comments. That's as good as the
Right.
It's really strange. I mean, it's a very strange way to entertain people, if you will, because I've been on the road, playing concerts, and festivals and bars, and since the early 1990s, right? So it's like, I don't love sitting down here in the basement by myself singing songs, to be honest with you, and I don't, but it does make me feel good that there's been such a great response to it. And it does make me feel good that, anecdotally, people have been saying that it's a great break in their day mentally, and a great, as you say, like a connection. I think we're all starved for that right now. This connectivity, we're starved to come together in whatever way we can, and I'm thrilled to think that the little supper time sing-alongs have encouraged that and facilitated some coming together, some gatherings in whatever way we're allowed to do it.
Oh, I've planned my days around it when you're doing them, and I know I'm not allowed to call my mother when you're on Facebook Live. So you even got a letter. I think I just saw you posted on social media. A letter came to you, to Alan Doyle, the singer, without an address. Is that right?
Yeah.
What did it say?
It's happened once or twice before as well. It's just, the letter was in my mailbox, and it said, Alan Doyle, brackets, the singer from Petty Harbor, brackets, thanks Canada Post for trying. And it showed up in my house, and it was just a cool fan request and stuff. But
that's amazing. It got to you.
First of all, way to go, Canada Post.
Yeah.
And second of all, of course, I mean, it's not as long as it made it to Newfoundland or St. John's. I mean, as we'd all know here, I mean, it's not like, I bet if someone put, an envelope addressed to Melissa Royle to Mrs. Son Rogers, you'd get yours too, probably. I mean, let's be honest.
I don't know about that.
There's not that many of us here.
I suppose.
That's great.
And Ellen, I want to circle back to something you just you mentioned earlier about how, and you're totally right, that when a crisis or an unfortunate event happens in our community, the musicians are the first people we call, to raise money and to lift our spirits, certainly as well. But of course, in this era, the musicians and the performers are among those that are suffering. I know you've had, I guess a couple of tours or a couple legs of tours affected now and rescheduling. But like I've seen you say on social media, it's not just about you, it's about the crew and the band and everyone that's along. I noticed you're wearing a great Bannerman Brewery, local brewery shirt there.
Like the colors.
I love it. But yeah, so I guess how are bands and you especially, trying to deal with the issue of, your whole team, not being able to be on the road right now?
Yeah, well, I think all the gig culture or the gig economy is suffering really badly. And the way I've just been trying to explain it to people is that, when Alan Doyle or Jan Arden or Brian Adams cancel a concert, there's a lot more than Jan Arden, Brian Adams, and Alan Doyle affected by that. There's a whole circle of people that are traveling in that, circus that we all love to travel in. And, the other musicians and the crew and the drivers and the man. And then there's a whole economy of people locally that benefit when that tour bus pulls up, right? So Definitely. That's the theater itself or the club or the venue or the bartenders or the servers or the cooks or the restaurants across from the theater or whatever. And then there's a whole other tier of people that have been working on that event for a year and a half, managers and managers' assistants and promoters and bookers and agents. And so it's a huge economy that all exists around me showing up, in Wichita on Wednesday and singing for people, and so it's everybody is feeling it, and we're doing our best to try and, like, for my own personal stuff. I mean, I'm lucky because I got a few other irons in the fire, I'll finish a book.
A number one record, no big deal.
That's right. I've been lucky, right? And so I'm all right. And then, but we're doing a few things to help out the rest of the gang. Like, we're having this merch sale, and on the website you go, like, Alan Doyle merch store or whatever. And if you buy some stuff, I'm not taking any of the money. I'm spreading it around to all the other guys that are out of work right now, and a few other things. And I think, like every other industry too, we're constantly turning to the federal government to see what the next program is going to be, to help, just same as any other business. We're just looking to see when our industry can be, assisted by the federal government. But then looking for when the green light's going to go back on so we can all go to work.
Absolutely. Well, so Margaret, we're just about out of time, but just to clue up, for this Mental Health Awareness Week, and obviously ongoing past that, if people are looking for resources or looking for help for mental health or looking to, I guess, donate, to the causes, what's the best place to look?
Yeah, please check us out at cmha.ca. That's Canadian Mental Health Association. And you can also visit mentalhealthweek.ca, and you'll see lots of resources there, including things like little tests so you can take to check up on yourself. And if you are feeling real distress, there are crisis lines as well, noted on the website. And you can also connect to CMHA Newfoundland through that site for local resources right in your community. And we encourage people to reach out right now. Operators truly are standing by to take your call and talk you through this and connect you to resources. So don't suffer alone, and be kind to yourself right now.
Thanks. And on May 22nd, I know we'll all be watching the virtual kitchen party on Alan's Facebook.
Yes.
May 20th. May
20th. What did I say? May 20th.
May 20th. May 20th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 here in Newfoundland, of course. Thanks so much for having us on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Melissa.
And I love the hair. Everyone's got grown out hair now, but you did it before it was cool. So you just look more and more like yourself. It's excellent. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Thanks for watching Out of the Fog, and thank you so much to Alan Doyle and Margaret Eaton for joining us. Be sure to check out the Canadian Mental Health Association website for resources around mental health, and also tune in for Alan's virtual kitchen party on May 20th. You know it's going to be a great time, all for a great cause. Also, if you're looking for a new t-shirt, check out alandoyle.ca, and of course all the proceeds there going to his band members and the crew who unfortunately aren't on the road right now. But thanks again to Alan and Margaret, and to you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Out of the Fog.
My name is Marina Palmer. I grew up in Portishead, and I'm still living in Portishead. Came from a very large family. We had to cook to help our mother out. She had that many children, so we were taught pretty young. Every one of us can cook, I'd say, fairly good. I grew up, we had to take turns making our special cake for the weekend. Each one's sisters, one did a light one did a chocolate one, and then we did molasses, what they call the old-fashioned molasses cake, or like a gingerbread. We learned the old way that they used to cook. Meat wasn't easy to come by back in them days, so there was no fridges, no electricity. The vegetables mainly came from our garden. Fish would have came from Portishead. You go to the fishermen. I use my own olive oil. I'm going to do a recipe that came back from great-grandmother from Quebec City. I'll keep stirring this now until it's brown, really brown. You brown your little bit of flour and make it nice and tasty. It was fish, you know, with potato and onions into it. The recipe did come from Quebec. That's where my grandparents on my dad's side came from. My mom's side, my grandfather came right from France. At the age probably 14, 15, he decided he was going to get off the boat, so he jumped ship and took the boat and rowed ashore into it and hid away under a pile of lumber. And the man that owned the land, he came out that morning, saw the men coming off the boat. He knew they were looking for someone. And he was hid away on his pile of lumber in the yard. So he took them in and gave them tea. And then he took them down, showed them where to go, where no one wouldn't find them. Down in Eddie's Cove. There wasn't very many people, probably 3 or 4 families at that particular time. So they took him in, and that's where he met my grandmother too, and he married her. It's just something when you decide you want some fish, you want fish stew or fried fish or whatever, you know, you just cook it up for a meal. It's always made the same way that my mom used to make it and taught us to make it. It was a recipe that we grew up loving.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Do you really think we can do this?
I'm all in. Ditto.
I do not have to prove myself to anyone.
Isn't this playing God? It's time.
We should hurry before someone else gets killed.
I don't want you to get your hopes up.
I know you're not giving up that easy.
I had a hunch we might need it.
I love your hunches.
We need to come clean.
It's not up to you. We'll see.
I love you.
I had a feeling.
The School Lunch Association is a registered charity that provides a hot, nutritious lunch for school children in over 36 schools, regardless of a family's financial situation. We believe that every child should have a hot, nutritious meal because good nutrition promotes better learning.
COVID-19 has affected us all, including one of the most